The Mamiya Sekor 55mm 1.8. This lens dates from the late 60s, early 70s, and in this edition of Jules Voto's Photo Focus, I'm going to review it. Now this lens has 6 elements in 4 groups, has a 6-bladed aperture, has half click stops from 1.8 to the minimum aperture of f16. It weighs 210 grams or 7.4 ounces, takes 52mm filters, and it's the M-42 screw mount. Has a minimum focus of 0.5 meters or 1.75 feet. It's all metal construction, and I tested it using the Fotassi M-42 to NZ adapter. These adapters are very cheap. I think I paid $15 for it. And they come for a variety of different lens mounts and most mirrorless cameras. Now I tested this lens on my Nikon Z8 in aperture priority with matrix metering and landscape picture control. Now I shot these pictures on Labor Day weekend on a family vacation. So this shot was early in the morning at f4. And it's really easy to focus manual focus lenses on the Nikon Z8 because of the ability to zoom in to 400% and also because of focus peaking. So this shot here is at 2.8 and the lens seems really sharp, edge to edge. This is another one here at f4. And you can see the light was coming from my right. The shot of the rocks and the water was at 5.6. And I really like normal lenses. When I say normal lenses, I guess I would call a normal lens anything from like 45 to 60. And this gives you just a little bit more reach than a 50 would. And this lens really seems to hold its sharpness from close up to more distant shots like this one. And I usually try to test the lens at infinity, but sometimes I forget. But anyway, here we go with this sign. This is at 2.8. Throws the background out nicely. And then I decided to open it up wide open to 1.8. And you could see the background blur is even better. Not much vignetting, wide open. And the center of this image here looks very sharp. So I saw this boat with the way the light was hitting it, and I took this first shot at 1.8, and I really like it. It softens up the background nicely. And then I took one at 2.8, and as far as the boat, that's where the focus was. Seems almost as sharp as the shot at 1.8, so I would not hesitate to use this lens at 1.8. Here's a shot of this flower at 2.8, pretty close to the minimum focus distance. It's not a macro lens. It gets you down to 1.75 feet. And this bunting here on the Lighthouse was at 2.8. And again, pretty sharp edge to edge. I then stopped it down to 5.6. This is the first time I ever shot with this lens. I got this lens along with a Mamiya DTL 1000, which I did do a video on recently. And this shot of the Lighthouse is at 5.6, very sharp. The sky looks great. And then I opened it up to 1.8, and it's still pretty sharp. Not as sharp. The weathered paint does look better at 5.6, and there is some vignetting, but it's not too objectionable. And right here we have a wide shot of the Lighthouse at 5.6. As you could see, it was kind of contrasty light with that sun still fairly low in the sky and coming from one side. So just walking along near the beach, along the seawall, there are a variety of subjects to shoot, from landscape type shots to close-ups to flowers. So it's a really nice place to use to test the lens. And this shot was at infinity at 5.6, and it looks really sharp. So I'm very pleased with the quality of this lens at infinity. Now, this shot of this flower was at f8 with some fill flash. And again, looks really sharp, background, even at f8. Of course, since I was so close, is really thrown out of focus. And this one is without the flash. I'll be doing a video on this flash, the Godox IT30 Pro, probably in my next video. And this is my nephew here, just looking out at the beach at 2.8. And you could see the sharpness. Sometimes if a lens doesn't look as sharp as I think it should be, sometimes it's my focus. But I think these all were focused properly. I took my time. And this one here, my son, is at 2.0. And you can see the sharpness of the lens. And of course, his shirt is really out of focus at 2.0. That's only a third of a stop down from wide open. And here we are at 2.8. And it does sharpen up a little bit. So let's zoom into it now, and you can really see the sharpness, but it's not too sharp. I think it's nice for people pictures. Here is my cousin at 5.6. And what I have found is that normal lenses from whatever manufacturer seem to be some of the sharpest lenses, sharper than wide angles, sharper than telephotos. Of course, there are just so many normal lenses around. You'll find more of them than any other focal lengths. And even the inexpensive ones are usually fine, stop down a little bit. So almost any normal lens can do a decent job. Okay, so now I went over to this merry-go-round, and here we have the horse at 1.8. The focus was on the near horse eye. Okay, so let's zoom in to that eye. And you can see it holds up pretty well at 1.8. And then I stop the lens down just a little bit to f2.0, and it definitely sharpens up a bit. Background blur is nice. It was a pretty busy background. Okay, now let's zoom in a little bit more. Again, this is at 2.0. I like the look of this lens. I like the look of a lot of these vintage lenses. And then finally here we're at 2.8. Of course, we gain a little bit more depth of field and a little bit more sharpness. And now we're just going to look at this one a little tighter. And I think it's nicely sharp. And as I've said before, you don't always need the very sharpest lenses. The overall look is what's important. And I think this lens, although very sharp, also has a nice rendering. Colors look great. Now, I was in landscape picture control, which does add some contrast and saturation, but I think it does a really nice job. So you could pick these lenses up pretty cheap. Like I said, I got it along with the camera body. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I usually publish a new video every Monday morning and Wednesday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And if you have any questions or comments on the video, please leave them in the comments below. I always try to respond to all questions and comments. So I will talk to you next time.